Nigeria has now tested nearly 800,000 samples of coronavirus, but health experts say that figure is lower than medical projections. Nonetheless, Oyo State's COVID-19 task force team says it is prepared to deal with more cases in the event of an upsurge in cases. Well, I was in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, to get a report on this.
Ibadan, capital of Oyo State, Nigeria's third most populous city, known for its brown roofing sheets spread across its aerial landscape, has not been able to test half of its population for COVID-19. This is reflective in all the 33 local governments of the state. With a population estimated to be 15 million, only about 28,000 samples have been conducted.
So far, we've been able to test close to 16,000 samples.
Since April?
Yes, since April, yep. And at the beginning, we were to test for Ogun State, Kwara State, and other states.
Despite having 2 standard certified laboratories and a number of sample collection centers, getting its population to check if they are carriers of the deadly virus is a wish on the governor's list, as residents seem just unwilling to check into any of the sample collection centers to get tested.
But the question is, do we really know the incidence of the infection in the country? And the answer is no. And so what we're doing is to find out those who come in, either for voluntary testing, those that we tested based on symptoms, and then look at how many of them are positive, and then we can give you a positivity rate, which varies between 5 and 10%. But that does not reflect truly what's happening in the community. There's a lot of fatigue globally. It's probably worse in Africa, where people are exhausted from the issue of coronavirus and COVID-19 as a disease. That may partially explain why there's a lot of apathy for people coming forward to test.
Yeah, so this is a heating block that we use.
The laboratory in the Department of Virology at the University College Hospital has the capacity to verify 1,000 samples per day, but it gets an average of 50 to 100 samples. That's even when contacts are traced by the Emergency Operations Center. The laboratory is still experiencing an upgrade. Medical equipment is still being bought to make the facility prepared for any disease outbreak. One of such is the extractor, an equipment that can test about 100 samples in an hour. At the peak of COVID-19 in Oyo State, a state of emergency birthed the College Biorespiratory and Central Laboratory, a facility that can not only test 500 samples per day, still samples come in trickles too. The crew is allowed a peep into the laboratories.
The virus genome in each well to multiply several folds.
Even though these labs are certified by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, they are faced with their own challenges.
At the peak of the activity in the months of April, May, June, about to July, we actually were running 3 shifts of testing. But now we do 1 shift because the number of testing have gone down. The little area that may be challenging, the getting, funding for things like I told you, power, because we have to maintain 24-hour power supply for the laboratory, not only to do the daily work, but also storage of reagents and the virus isolate. And the consumables, this is a heavily consumable dependent work. You use a lot of material resources, and they are very expensive. So in addition to what the NCDC supplies us, Oyo State on a monthly basis actually supports this laboratory.
I believe that if we probably experience an upsurge or a kind of resurgence in the number of cases, we are better prepared now to even be able to expand our capacity within a very short time. A lot more people have been trained than what we had when we first started out. We have a number of laboratory interns working here. We have medical laboratory scientists who have also been retrained while during the course of the pandemic. And so it looks like we have on our hands a lab that would even outlive the COVID-19 pandemic and also come in handy for some other infectious diseases that would also still come on, like yellow fever, like Lassa fever, which is always here anyway, or whichever other infectious diseases comes up again.
Now, it is mandatory to go for testing if you want to travel out of the country. Sometimes surgeons require COVID-19 test results, but for some reasons, people just don't want to be tested. Maybe for fear of stigmatization, the low mortality rate recorded in Nigeria and other African countries, and the knowledge and use of herbs. So I decided to give it a try.
The testing centers in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, it's called the Health is Wealth Clinic. So if you want to test for COVID-19, you can come into the center to test yourself and see if you are positive or negative, as the case may be. So first off, before you do anything, they ask you to first off wash your hands first, which is what I'm going to do. Then you move to the data collection spot, which is one of the first stages, and then you get to engage the health worker here, who will be asking you certain questions as to where you've traveled to, where you've been in the last couple of weeks.
Pretty scary, ain't it? Luckily, before we left the sample collection center, the president of the Christian Association of Nigeria arrived to be tested. He has just come back to the country.
To be done again and again. This is about the third time I'm doing it. You know, I mix with people a lot, and I need to know my status from time to time. And it is important for everybody, because we know that it's treatable. Yeah, and it's better for you to treat it if you have it.
Health experts are asking people to go for testing. So even as you decide to travel this Christmas, stay safe and protect yourself and those around you. By the way, I tested negative, got my result in 24 hours. Kind of felt happy I did the test. Sarah Yeku, TVC News, Ibadan.